Okay, badge bunnies, blue falcons, donut eaters, and energy drinkers. Old retired porch sitters. We're back again. Real American Blue. A show where you can hear where old retired guys can talk without an internal investigation. So pick up your power rings and coffee, sit back, and watch.
Welcome back, folks. This guest today, somebody pretty special. His name is Terry Sharp. He has an organization they run called Combat Heroes Bike Build, and what they do is uh, combat vets who've returned and have injuries. They basically give them a little more freedom by building custom Harley Davidsons for them to accommodate their injuries. And it's a great program. In fact, one of the guys that was on the show, Bobby Henline, he spoke about it, spoke highly of this organization. So we reached out to get Terry to come on to tell y'all about it and how you can help them, where they go, all that. So, Terry, take it away. Tell us about your bike build.
Terry, good
Uh,
afternoon.
yeah, thanks, Curly and Rich. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's a organization that I truly love being involved with. It started in we started in 2013, when our founder actually attended and put on a bike show down at Camp Pendleton. Got down there and saw a bunch of Marines and coming out there in their wheelchairs or missing arms or missing legs, and said he felt like, put it mildly, he felt like a little turd. So he decided then that we need to do something for these guys that are no longer able to ride motorcycles.
Yep.
So he got a hold of a couple of his buddies, Wes Alvarez in Florida and Ray Too Tall McDowell in Texas. Said, what can we do? So in 2014, they built their first adaptive motorcycle for a Marine from Idaho named Charlie Linville. He was a right leg amputee below the knee. And we did that at the beginning of Run for the Wall, which is a ride that goes from California to DC every Memorial Day. It's been about 10 days going across the country. And that went over pretty well. I got involved shortly after that, after I saw what changes it did for Charlie. Those of you that read VFW magazine might remember an article where he was the first amputee to climb Mount Everest. That was after we gave him his bike, so we take credit for it, although he probably would have done it without us anyway. But we went on 2015, built a couple bikes. One of those was for Brian Mast, who's from Florida. Brian's gone on to become a U.S. representative. And 2016, we slowed back down to one, and we finally eventually got ourselves up to 4 or 5 bikes a year. And when COVID hit us in 2020, my wife and I moved to Florida, and we thought, COVID's hit us. We can't do presentations, any public gatherings anymore. We can't set up our merchandise and events tent and our information booth. Thought it'd pretty well wipe us out. But I ran into so many veteran supporters down here in Florida that we ended up building 5 bikes that year. Went on to build 6 bikes for several years, back to 5. And this year we're actually building 7 bikes for combat wounded veterans. And that's with a lot of help from volunteers and donors across the country. We gave away our first bike this year in Cave Creek, Arizona, to a young man named Shiloh Harris from Texas. Shiloh's a, let's see, I got to remember which arm it is. He lost one of his arms and had burns over 70% of his body. Or I take that back. He didn't lose an arm. He lost portions of both of his hands. So he was our first one this year, and we gave that away in Cave Creek, Arizona, where I got to meet Rich. And we started something new this year. We're doing a couple of 5-day rides. That first one, we went from Cave Creek to Boerne, Texas, where we gave away our second bike for the year. And in the ride, like I said, was about 5 days long. We spent all 5 days going about 1,000 miles, so it wasn't too many miles a day. Mostly back roads, very little interstate. Our feedback from the ride was everybody had a very enjoyable time doing a relaxed ride. Got to meet some of our veterans that have, lost limbs. We built bikes for, and across Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, all of our meals were donated to us. Firehouses, VFWs, American Legions, churches, they all stepped up to help us get across those states. But anyway, our next bike giveaway will be in Visalia, California. And that's being sponsored by the American Legion out there. Then July, we'll go to Byers, Colorado to give away another bike. August, we'll do one in Medford, Oregon. And then in September, we're having another ride. We're going to start it here near the Villages in Florida. And we're going to kick it off with a comedy show by Bobby Henline and Joe Cashow. Joe's another severely wounded veteran. So we'll do that on Sunday, September 27th. When we leave on Monday morning, we'll head up to Cookeville, Tennessee. Again, mostly back roads. We'll be working on getting all the details for that ride put together. And when we get to Cookeville, we'll donate another bike to a wounded veteran. But also this year, we expanded our program to include first responders that have been injured in the line of duty.
Wow, great.
We just thought that was fitting. Yeah, we're going to kind of rebrand a little bit. Instead of Combat Hero Bike Build, we're going to push out American Hero Bike Build. That way it includes all the first responders. But it's been a great program. We build these bikes with donations, grants from the general public.
How do you, where do you get the bikes from?
90% of our bikes have all been donated to us. They're really well-used bikes for the most part. We get them, we turn them over to a professional builder. Once the professional builder gets the bike, we arrange a meeting between the injured veteran or first responder to meet with the builder. They go over exactly what he needs. They measure him up on the bike.
Wow.
They completely rebuild the bike. Some get new engines, some get engines rebuilt and increased in size. For the bikes we get that we need to convert to trikes, we use primarily Frankenstein trike kits out of Kansas.
Yeah.
Then we always do a custom paint job. The picture behind me in the background is Aleo Amaris. He's a, let's see, I got it here. He was an Iraqi veteran that was watching a Iraqi fuel truck get gas, and to make sure that they didn't take more than what they needed. And there was an explosion at the tank, caught on fire. He lost both of his arms and had burns over, I want to say, like 60% of his body. So we built that trike for him, and of course it created some new challenges. We'd never built one that had lost both arms before. So we ended up doing a lot of push buttons where his shifter, he's got a push button shifter now. So all he has to do is reach down with his prosthetic on his left hand, touch a button, and he can shift gears. On his right hand, we got a dual a brake lever that activates both brakes, the front and the rear. They're proportioned so that, the front brake gets a little bit more first and then the rear. And he rides it. he rides it well. His choice of colors, as you can see, my head's a little bit in the way, but
Army green.
Yep.
Army green, and he
That
wanted
Army
something.
star out front.
Yeah, so the painter made some of the designs on it like a World War II Army Jeep, and then on his fender and on the rear of the trike, we put his live date for like the serial number of the Jeep, which of course he gets and most of the veterans get, but not everybody understands what those numbers are. So it's a little bit special for him. But we've built a total of 45 bikes so far.
Wow, just since 2013.
Since, yeah,
So how long does it take from getting that donor bike to the completion of the bike that's fitted for the veteran?
we try to allow the builders about 6 months, and most of them don't have any problem doing that for us. We've had one or two that were just a little late, but with 6 months, we figure they can kind of work on the bikes, donate a large amount of their time, get the parts, gives them time to search for parts, try to get discounted and donated parts.
Right.
And then, of course, the biggest problem we run into, though, is a lot of our recipients are waiting 5 or 6 years from the time they get on our list before they get their bike. We've had a couple that even forgot they applied. Some of them move, so we have to track them down again. But we haven't had any that weren't excited about getting this bike and the new freedoms that it involves. But the builders we use, we've got a local guy here in Florida that builds them in his garage. We've got FXR Division and Ramjet Racing out of Phoenix. We're using Garcia Custom Bikes out of California. Let's see, we've got one in Colorado that builds for us. And let's see. And we actually have one of our recipients from about 3 years ago building a bike for us. He'll be building the one that we're giving away in Tennessee.
Cool.
Yeah,
There's,
Ramjet has quite a reputation here in the Phoenix area for motorcycle stuff.
Yeah, we've had good luck finding builders out there, and they just do awesome jobs. And like Chris Staub there at FXR, he puts his heart into it. We also have a builder in Kansas, Dorfler Motor Supply, and I think he enjoys it probably just about as much as the recipient.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of personal satisfaction that people get when they do stuff like this. There's a builder, he's a Navy vet in Kingman, of all places, Kelly's Performance Motorcycles. It's by the airport. He does custom builds, and there's been a few guys that have gone through his shop and branched out on their own. And there's another guy that was an Army vet that builds really custom bikes out of over by going towards Lake Havasu, between Kingman and Lake Havasu. And I'm thinking over by Bullhead City, but I can't remember. But it's a big outlet for a lot of the veterans to be able to do this.
Yeah.
In fact, what was it? The founding of the Hells Angels was before it went to the dark side a little bit, but it was mostly veterans coming back from World War II that built that.
I know there were a lot of World War II pilots came back and just kind of missed some of the thrill. And I think that's kind of how the Hells Angels started. And of course, a lot of the another benefit, not only from riding the bikes that these recipients get, is the camaraderie they get from being around other bikers. And a lot of the other bikers are vets, or actually they all that I know of, all I've met have always supported veterans.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that camaraderie is priceless. We had the event where we gave Bobby his bike. I rode up to Colorado from Florida. First day I picked up Cody Jones, one of our recipients from the Panhandle. Then I met Corey Collins in Kentucky. He's from North Carolina. He's the one building the bike for us for Tennessee this year. So he met up with us. And then in Kansas, we picked up another one of our recipients, a right arm amputee, then picked up another recipient in Kansas that's from Lincoln, Nebraska. So I had 4 recipients ride with me. We had another recipient come up from Texas on his own. And outside the hotel in the evenings, those guys and Bobby, I mean, it was like they had been brothers forever. And of course, they hadn't met before, but they had a lot in common, of course.
Yeah.
These guys go through, I don't know, sometimes 20 or 30 different surgeries before they are able to walk again or use their arms and stuff.
Yeah.
So they, it's not just the day of the injury. They just go through years and years of therapy to get back to where they can get around. And I think this motorcycle provides even more.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
It absolutely does. I've been watching Bobby Henline's Facebook page when he's out riding. Man, he's funny. He's got a big smile on his face, and he's out there, and man, and the other thing that people don't think about, that these vets that are like this, that have lost limbs, that have been injured, they have a resiliency about them. They don't give up. They find other ways to enjoy life. And you're helping them do that. And you're absolutely helping them.
Yeah, it's as of yesterday, Bobby's wife, Jamie, now has a trike. She decided she didn't want to ride the back seat anymore. So
yeah,
she traded her slingshot because we won't let slingshots ride with us.
No, that's not a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what we told her.
Yeah.
She went out and bought a Harley trike.
Well, I'll tell you, having had the opportunity to meet you one-on-one when you were here in Cave Creek, Phoenix area for the Arizona Bike Week, the upbeat atmosphere of everyone involved in your group there, and Bobby and Shiloh and others there, I'll tell you, I didn't feel, if you didn't look at someone, you would never know there was an injury that had occurred. Everyone was so upbeat and just having a great time, and smiles and laughter and positive communication. It was a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bobby wasn't able to attend that ride because he had a retreat that week, fishing thing up north.
Bobby was at the hotel in the morning before you rode out of Phoenix, right?
He was. He flew back.
He just couldn't do the ride.
Yeah, he flew back to Kentucky that evening, but he's so excited about coming down to Florida and doing the ride from Florida to Tennessee. Actually, we've got 4 of our amputee veterans signed up to do that right now. We've got 2 more that are talking about it. So that really ought to be a fun ride.
Where are you going in Tennessee?
We'll go to Cookeville. Cookeville's, we've been there before for other events, and it's a very, very friendly, motorcycle friendly town, and they go all out to support veterans.
Awesome.
First time I rode in there with a group, it was pouring down rain. I mean, pouring down. And we rode in, and there were people with flags lined up for 2 miles going through town. I didn't need my face shield on to keep the rain out of my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it was great.
That's something. And outside of the time that it takes to build these bikes, what's the cost that goes into them?
We spend, when we started, we were spending around $18,000 or $20,000 per bike. With the cost of everything that's gone up, and we've tried to make them probably a little bit more custom than we used to, we're up to $40,000 per bike right now.
Wow.
And that's with a lot of donated parts and donated time on the builder's behalf.
Yeah. And you need donations from other sources to come in to help pay for some of this stuff.
Yeah, it would be really great to get some corporate sponsorships. Right now, we have a few foundations that support us, but no real large corporate sponsorships to speak of. We'd like to reduce our timeline from those guys waiting in the queue from that 6 years down to maybe a couple years, which,
Yeah.
That's something they can look forward to right away as opposed to forgetting about and then us tracking them down.
You have to
Yeah.
maybe go after Amazon, large corporate sponsor, then they can do free shipping to you also.
That would be nice. Yeah, but one of the problems
They
with
might have a penny or two they could donate.
they
Yeah.
should. But one of the problems we have with large sponsorships, they like to see how many people are you helping. Well, this 40,000 is going to help one particular guy,
But
it's also going to help the family around him and
Yep.
the people,
Friends.
other people that support him.
Yep.
Those presentations, and hopefully you'll make it to the one in Arizona next year. They're a moment. I mean, you just the people that come to them, I think, get a lot of pleasure out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has an impact on their life. You come back from a war and
not the way you left.
yeah, and you still got that drive to be able to go do stuff. And you're actually making that possible for them. So it's awesome.
I've gotten extra long hugs from some of the wives, and they'll say, "You don't know how this has changed him." It is such a big deal for them. And like with Bobby, like you say, you follow him on Facebook, so you see him out there all the time. So and he loves being out. He loves going to the Harley shops. He loves going to the events he puts on. And when he rides his bike, of course, he loves talking about us, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, he was talking real highly of you, and at that point, I hadn't heard anything about it. But then I saw you got a bike. Then when he came on the show, we were talking about getting you on to talk about it because, people go about their lives every day not knowing the impact that this war had on a bunch of guys, and you're fixing that.
We're working on it.
Oh,
one bike at a time.
One bike at a time. Yeah, and like I said, it'll be 7 this year. If we can get up to 10 bikes a year, we'd love to do it. I mean, even more, but then we got to get more. We definitely need more volunteers as well.
Did you do you have any contacts at corporate Harley?
I don't. I do know that one person that I talked to had a contact at S&S Engines, which makes a lot of the motors engines to replace the Harley engines. And I did have one person told me one time, he says, I know somebody happened to Harley. I'll go talk to him. And that's the last I heard.
Yeah.
So
I know there was he was in charge of service at the Kingman Harley Davidson dealership. And I went in there for a tire for my bike. And we sat down and talking, and he was telling me that there's a warehouse back on the East Coast. And I may have mentioned this before to Rich in another show or something, but Harley has a warehouse that's stocked with motorcycles that were paid for by servicemen who got deployed and didn't come home. And they don't have family contacts or anything. So they got these bikes spanning time, going back all the way to World War II. And they're just sitting there. So I was talking to somebody about it, that if an organization reached out to Harley and found out about that warehouse and found out about those bikes, that maybe they could do something there and reunite the motorcycle that serviceman bought that never made it home, reunite it with the family, or use it for another, like an organization like yourself. So, yeah,
sounds like an opportunity.
Yeah, I've got my brain going while Curly's talking, but Terry will need to give me a call this next week. And off the air, we'll talk about some things I think I can direct you to. Hopefully, it'll be a positive thing.
Yeah, there's another builder down in Phoenix, and Rich will
Yaffe?
probably know.
Paul
Huh?
Yaffe? Paul
Yep,
Yaffe?
yep. They build them. I saw his place on like McDowell or Thomas Road or something.
I think 7th and Thomas South Side, if I've maybe Indian School too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he's a custom bike builder.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of if you can get more guys building bikes and helping, that turn time for these veterans on the waiting list would be
Much quicker.
shorter
Yeah.
and shorter. And
and the funds to do it. And one thing
Right.
you said, Curly, that you hadn't heard of us before. Well, that's one of the reasons we're kind of reaching out with these rides as well, to reach more people as we go across the different states and make different stops. Because the people that fed us our meals on that ride from Cave Creek to Bernie, of course, they'd never heard of us before, but we had gone out in advance to do recon on the routes and set up all the meals and stuff. And they were just more than happy to help us.
oh yeah, this is a great program. In fact, there's a friend of ours, mine and Rich's. He does that, and I spoke to you a little bit about it off the air. Guardian Garage
Yep.
with Craig and his brother. One's a retired cop, the other one's an Army vet, combat vet, and they built a Harley. They went through and built a Harley. It wasn't like what you guys do, but they did it, I think, to raffle or to raise money for their nonprofit. And they're doing a good thing down in Peoria. And you know, that's a good organization. There's good guys in there working on stuff. And I don't know if you're aware, Guardian Garage was founded that cops, for any first responder, dispatchers, firefighters, cops that had issues with the job, like PTSD or trauma or different things, they could go to this shop and work on their cars or motorcycles or artwork, whatever it was, and do it in a stress-free environment. In fact,
With help.
Craig and Jerry and a few other guys there, they have skills. They build hot rods and custom cars and stuff. So people bring their stuff in. And I think Craig was telling me about a Vietnam vet that had a little car he was working on. And same thing. The guy wouldn't go anywhere, couldn't hold a job, was having a rough time. Went into the shop, started hanging out, the camaraderie with people that have been there, done
still
that,
not.
and the same issues. Yeah. And now the guy's like going out things. And yeah, I mean, that's a success story. And
Yeah.
when you do things like this, nonprofits seem to struggle getting the necessary funds going to do the job, because it's a needed job. Because I mean, once the VA's done with you, they're done with you. Here's your check. That's it. That's
Yeah.
how it works. Call us if there's an issue. And they're done. So I think what you're doing, a lot more people need to be aware of it. Just off the top of my head, the Route 66 100th anniversary coming up at the end of this month or in the middle of May sometime. They do the fun run, which is from Seligman to Kingman down Route 66. It's a big deal this year, and there'll be vendors and different things going on. In fact, the Fueled by the Fallen and Tiffany, who took over for Kevin, I told her about it and taking her cars out there and doing a run. And it brings a lot of attention to your program and what you're doing. And yeah, it's just there's so much here, like the Barrett Jackson car show,
Oh yeah.
you know, and then you've probably been to a lot of the motorcycle events that they do, like the Laughlin River Run that they did, and different things like that. Oh yeah,
A lot of
Yeah,
exposure to be had.
yeah, we try to get out there. That's where we're short on volunteers. We have volunteers from probably 10 or 12 states. A lot of them work hard at it, but to be able to attend all these other events and do what we're doing with the motorcycle presentations takes a lot of time.
Oh
no,
yeah.
I know.
Well,
And
absolutely.
then you're busy building the bikes and coordinating and stuff. Do you have volunteers here in Arizona?
We have actually we just lost our number one volunteer. Big Red Lenny Hodson passed away about 6 or 8 months ago.
Sorry.
But there have been a few other people step up. They aren't. I mean, about a dozen of us or so are pretty much full time volunteers. But a
Yeah.
lot of people can't afford to spend that much time at it. So, but we do get quite a few volunteers out of Arizona.
Yeah. There's the American Legions here. They have the riders, the American Legion riders, and I know Kingman. They are very active in their American Legion riders. And I think they had somewhere around 50 guys that go and do events and stuff. And here in Ashfork, we had like what 10, 8, not very many people, but you'd get that support from the larger legions that would do a ride or do these kinds of things. And I think, and me not, I hadn't heard of this until Bobby. And I think it's something that more people at the American Legion, the VFWs, they need to help promote.
Yep.
Yeah, we do get support from American Legion. The American Legion Post 34 there in Cave Creek has been very instrumental in keeping us out there. So at the event there, they handed us checks that amounted to around 22,000, which is more than halfway to the bike, which is a big help. And
Yeah.
we've had help from Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association here in Florida and up the East Coast. The Nom Knights Motorcycle Club has been very good about supporting us. We've had support from VFW riders, a smaller amount, but yeah, we have reached out to some clubs, but of course these other clubs have other things they support as well, so they can't be
Mhm.
solely, dedicated to us.
Yeah.
No, I get it. They the thing where you're opening it up and expanding it to first responders,
That'll help, I think, a
the
lot.
that will make a big thing, a big impact, and a lot of police organizations, firefighter organizations, they got manpower to volunteer. They got old retired guys like me and Rich. I mean, I'm not a mechanic or anything, but I can hand out pamphlets and wave.
Tell our story. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's an amazing story, and what you guys do is amazing. And
We'll put a link
now
on our website.
Great.
yeah, we could do that. And you guys, I'm sure have merchandise that you move to help augment some of the income, right?
We do. Last year or so, we've kind of pulled back a little bit on the merchandise, but we actually have a guy there in Arizona down in Chandler that provides us with knives and stuff we sell. We have a lot of those out the front spring loaded knives
Uh-huh.
that we can't
Oh,
keep those in stock. Out the
is that
front.
is that Raven Crest?
No, it's the guy that does it for us is called Big Boy Knives.
Oh, okay.
And he's like I say, he works out of Chandler. He does knives, fireworks, and other types of things that he engraves our logo on, and we sell quite a bit of those. Matter of fact, there for a while when the bikes were running 20,000 a year, we were selling enough knives to build a bike each year.
Wow.
But we don't set up quite as many merchandise tents as we used to. We've had it seems like the busier we get building bikes, the less time we have to do other things.
Yeah.
So
it's like anything else in life. When you're working, you got money coming in, and when you stop to do something, you don't have that money coming in anymore.
Yeah, we've had a lot of volunteers step up, and some of them have stayed with us and been with us 7 or 8 years and still work it out. Then we have some that join up and say, I didn't know it was going to be this much work or this much to take care of, or I had to make decisions on my own, and don't last very long. But, we welcome any volunteers that want to step up and help us out. We'll give them a little training and turn them loose, selling merchandise and handing out pamphlets, like you say, and talking our story up a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I think I read somewhere where there are like 10,000 veteran-related nonprofit organizations.
Wow.
Most of them aren't really what I'd call up and up.
Yep, I know.
And, of course, it kind of gives everybody a bad name until you get to know them real well.
Yep. It affects
But I'd
them all.
say out of the ones I know, well, that probably includes the veteran service organizations too, and I think highly of those. But there are a few of those organizations out there that raise a lot of money, and I can't believe when I look up their 990 forms, seeing where their money goes.
The top guys, making the money, and they go, "Here's your check for $50."
Yeah, I looked up one recently, and I thought, why are they sending money to orphanages in Ukraine? It's just it's a good idea, but I wouldn't think that's not what the nonprofit was set up for.
Yeah, there's a few veteran organizations that I know of, because we've been trying to get Chief Eddie Gallagher on, the Navy SEAL chief. He does a foundation called Pipe Hitters Foundation. And it was prompted by his incarceration for a crime he didn't do. And it was raising money for legal defense funds for first responders and military personnel accused of crimes. And that's a great organization. But I think with some of the combat vets and stuff, there's organizations that, like, and I'm just throwing this out here, the Navy SEAL group that has an organization, and there's some of those guys that would be candidates for a motorcycle. And I mean, there's so much, and it's a little frustrating at times trying to do something when you don't lack, or when you lack the funding to be able to do it, So,
I stopped by a booth yesterday that was run by the Marine Corps League, and of course they're a great organization, but they help out a lot of other organizations. And I just asked them, so what does it take to get on your list? We do get our fair share of Marines that are amputees.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just always reaching out, and you never know when you're going to hit. Actually, one of my golfing buddies was at a fundraiser, and he was talking to the guy putting on the fundraiser, and he was telling about us. And that foundation ended up donating $12,000 to help support us in paying for all the expenses for the amputees that ride with us on these rides. Wow. So that's a big help. So that way they don't have to worry about the cost. We'll cover their hotel rooms, their fuel, and anything else they need, and back and forth from Florida or Tennessee, wherever they join us. So, sometimes when you're not expecting help, you get it.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot to that. We had, there's a couple guys. I have a Harley out there that I need to. I'm either going to sell it. I'm either going to sell it or make it a 98 at Kelly's place over in Kingman, and then go on a ride. But then, we talked about the rides, and there's a couple guys at the office that ride, and we talked about. In fact, one of the guys went on a retirement ride right when he retired. He bought a new Harley, bought a trailer for that Harley, and rode across country. Went all the way to the East Coast and all the way back. And I thought, man, that'd be a lot of fun with a group of guys that you know,
Yeah.
and having a little tow behind tent trailer that you could park in a spot, throw the tent up, sleep. It'd be pretty cool. It would be pretty slick. And, I can just see some of these guys that thought that they couldn't do a whole lot of stuff because of their injuries now are being able to do that because of what you guys are doing. And it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, I got a few contacts that I'll give you
Okay.
off air or text message or something, but I know Rich has a few,
Yep.
and we can see if we can get this help you in any way. So,
Well, if we've got a minute left or so, why don't I see if I can share my website page with you?
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Did I
That's
push
all.
the right buttons to allow you to do that?
I think there was a share button on here. Let me look here. Yep, now I got it.
Yeah, we still got, I don't know, what is that?
About 15
We still
minutes
got
left.
about 20 minutes left. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see if it comes right here.
I might be able to do that as well. Let me look on my end to see if I can do that.
Yeah, it might go quicker.
Yeah.
Well, he knows not to ask me.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well, I think I got mine up. Is mine on there?
I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, I did. Hang on.
You do? Okay.
There
we
it
go.
is.
That's it.
All right. Anyway, our website is www.combatheroBikebuild.org. Bobby's wife, Jamie, has helped us make this a lot nicer. So as you can see on the home page there, we've got a place to point for military or veteran bike application and first responder bike application. That first one should read veteran bike application. And there's a picture of Bobby and Jamie. This is taken in Colorado with some of our past recipients there. But our website tells us a lot more about us. We've got an application to do the Southeast ride that's taking place in the fall. We've got a site for our upcoming events. Talks about our upcoming presentations and who's getting the bike, who donated the bike, who our major donors are for that bike. Then we've got our next page, which is photos of all of our recipients, or you can check and go to the bios of all of them.
Nice.
We have a few testimonials, not too many. We got, of course, the board of directors were.
Yeah, I think the guys that have the testimonials will be they're too busy smiling and picking bugs out of their teeth.
And then we've got our builders pages a little bit behind. But anyway, there's a lot on our website, a lot of information on there that people can go to, and there's to contact us.
Yeah, and I think when I did the promo, I threw your link in the promo on all the social media. So folks out there, if you want to
click on the links on any of our social media. It'll take you right to these guys.
Yep.
If you're a rich guy like Elon Musk or Bezos or any of them guys, hey,
We'll
there
take
you
a few
go. I
dollars.
mean, yeah,
Yeah, there is a donate button on the page, so
Yeah.
and sponsor opportunities.
They have opportunities. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's actually you're a 501c3.
That is correct. We are a 501c3. We're 100% volunteers. The only thing that does not go toward the bikes or the veterans themselves are a little bit of overhead, like cost of the website page, insurance, and a few things like that.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
a
I mean,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I have a
No,
question
you
about the bikes. I noticed some of the pictures just previously showed here in the last couple of moments. There were different bikes there. It looked like a Sportster. There were trikes and others. How do you fit the bike to the person, or does the person say, "Hey, this is probably the best type of bike for me"? And obviously, it's obvious what they're going to get.
Yeah, they of course we ask them right off the bat whether they feel more comfortable with bike with two wheels or a trike.
Okay.
We had a few requests for sidecars, and I've tried them, but they just don't work out for the veterans. They're just too hard to handle, too hard to set up, too hard to maintain. So we prefer late model, mid-size to road size Harleys because they're easier to get parts for. The full size Harleys, any of the vets will fit on those. The mid-size, uh, you know, full size will fit, but they're good for medium size, like Softails and the Dynas. But
Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, we use a lot of road glides and
Street glides.
some street glides, ultras.
Yep.
But we've had a couple bikes given to us that really didn't need anything. I mean, they were in perfect condition. But by the time we get them outfitted and make sure the engine and everything's rebuilt, they're it still costs quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
That's what
But-
sparked my thought process was that sidecar I saw in the picture there, and then the one I think it looked like a Sportster. It's like seemed that obviously the individual that was on that Sportster looking bike with the amputee it appeared he had on the right side there made a difference. Having a lighter bike, and then I don't know what the disabilities were involved with the sidecar bike, but I thought that was interesting. The sidecar be great if you have a service animal, maybe that has to accompany you everywhere.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit more knowledge to keep those, where they're balanced and
Oh yeah,
riding a sidecar is really not that easy. It takes a lot of upper arm strength.
Yeah.
You always got to be afraid you're not going to tip it over.
Yeah.
But Sportsters are, for the most part, we've done one Sportster, and it seemed like it was just too small of a bike for the rider. The one with the sidecar, I think, might be a Dyna, but I'm not 100% sure without going back and looking.
Yeah. And those the kits you use to make them a truck. It's
said the
There-
Frankenstein.
Yeah,
There's a lot-
Frankenstein
Yeah.
kits. Yeah, the guy that owns Frankenstein's, he works with us real well. He gives us, pretty good sized discount. I don't know how he affords to do it, but anyway, he's very supportive.
Big heart.
And those trike kits are lightweight. They look great. Now the one in the picture behind me, that was a trike already, and that's a full body kit. But the Frankenstein trike kits, you recognize them. They're all aluminum billet, and they're just great looking kits, and they ride good.
That's cool. And but it's still a lot of time, a lot of effort that you guys have to put in to build one of these, especially for that particular vet,
Yeah, they're all built
to accommodate.
for his disabilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Well,
it's crazy. I mean,
I didn't know about you till Bobby Henline, and he was talking, and I was following his
Yeah, I had
Facebook
no.
page. So, and it's a great organization. And folks out there, you want to volunteer and do something for vets, and that's the other thing. I'm a vet. I know Rich hadn't served, but what's funny is you get organizations, and I think you touched upon it, that say, "Oh, we're helping the vets. We're doing this," and they don't do shit, nothing. And the biggest thing that these organization needs are volunteers and donations to make them work. And if you want to volunteer, you just saw his Combat Heroes Bike Build website, and you
.org.
can sign up no matter what state you're in. You can do that.
Yep.
And, even if it's like cooking a meal when they're doing their trips, you know, it works. And these guys need to have it. And this is a special program. So anyway, what other
Oh,
what other types, besides the meal cooking and the bike building, when you do events, do you set up a booth and have people work the booth and sell t-shirts and hats and different things and then talk about your group?
We do. At every event, we set up a tent, and occasionally we'll set up tents. Harley dealerships are great for setting up tents when they have an ongoing event.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
we have to step away just for a minute. I'm sorry.
yeah, he's got that background screen. Hey,
yeah, I like
Rich,
that.
maybe do you still see Mike Lucas anytime? Any
I
once in a
do. I
while?
actually just spoke to Mike a couple of weeks ago. I got him hooked up with some things for the museum he's doing for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and I'm also sending him something. So yeah, I do talk to Mike.
Yeah, he happens to know,
A lot of people.
yeah, he happens to know Craig Jackson for Barrett
Eric
Jackson.
Jackson. Yep.
And maybe he can drop a bug in his ear about this organization setting up or doing something at the Barrett Jackson Auto Show
Yeah,
or
I
the
have
auction.
a former squad name that retired that works for him, with him, and knows him well. That I could also. Again, we've got to talk off air. My cogs are turning as
No,
Terry's
I know.
talking, as you're
Mine are
talking,
too.
and it's like, wow.
Yeah,
Apologize. There's somebody at the door.
Okay.
yeah. This is
I hang an on-air sign up so I don't get disturbed. I learned.
yeah. I
I just
actually
can't stop my dog from barking.
my daughter's bought me for Christmas. I think it says on air, a little neon sign
Yeah,
thing.
there you go.
Now I have nowhere to put it, and except I thought about wiring it to the outside. So I,
Yeah.
it's I don't know, but we're going to talk a little bit off the air about giving you some ideas on who to reach out to. And I can hear his cogs turning in his
Oh yeah.
brain right now, and mine are they need some WD-40 or something because they're squeaking. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Awesome thing. Awesome thing.
you
you're doing.
know, if you could do like Guardian Garage and Craig down there, they've got a bike donated to them. They went through the whole bike, they did it, and they were raffling it to raise money. And Harleys, I see them every once in a while through the American Legion when somebody passes away and the wife gives the Harley, donates it to the
Yep.
Legion or something. They do a raffle. Um, yeah, reaching out, doing stuff like that, having a Harley raffle. Holy smokes. That could get a lot of money. And yeah, so there's a lot of ideas. So
Absolutely.
anyway,
Anything new coming up? Where's your next presentation? I think
Well,
you
the
may
next
have
one
said it.
will be in Visalia, California. It'll be at the California American Legion State Convention. That's June 27th.
Now, are you going to bike ride across or fly?
I might turn that over to one of our board members that lives out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I've ridden out that far before, then
All
back
right.
across the country. You know, I'm getting up there in years a little bit, so I got to get help from younger folks.
That'd be a long ride from
Yeah,
Florida
it
to
would.
California.
Yeah, it took me 2.5 days to get to Cave Creek, but
Wow.
I was pretty well beat up by the time I got there. With all those bugs in Texas. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
And they're big bugs. They're
yeah,
big.
and the one after California though is in Colorado, and I will go to that one.
Yeah.
That one I really enjoy. So
Yeah, Colorado's a nice state, and the rides up there would be really nice.
Oh, beautiful area. Yeah. I'm doing a ride in June up to Twin Falls, Idaho from Arizona.
oh, that'd be a good ride.
So,
What about Sturgis? Any involvement with
beautiful.
Sturgis or anything?
I have not. It seems like we're starting to lean more toward events where we're the primary target. In Sturgis, we're like there's so much going on there.
Oh yeah, you'd be lost in the mix.
No doubt we'd sell some merchandise and stuff and maybe pick up some donations, but being just a very, very, very small piece of that large puzzle, I don't know if it's as good as like when we go to Cave Creek, Arizona at the American Legion post. That's why we're the reason they are there, for that event. Or when we did the one in Bernie, Texas, we had the event at the Von Erichs Ranch, and we were the reason everybody was there. It'll be the same one for when we do the one in Florida and we do the one in Tennessee, as well as the one in Colorado. So and as we do those each year in the same place at the same time, we're growing at those places, and that will help us spread the word.
The word's getting out.
And I think the rides that we're adding this year, the 2 rides, if we can pull something off and if they go real well, maybe next year we'll do one from Missouri to Byers, Colorado, doing back roads. And that would be, again, about 1,000-mile trip, spend 5 days doing it and hit some communities going that way. And plus, there'd be so much good riding down there in Southwest Missouri and northern Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
Try to avoid Kansas if we can, but there's not a lot of exciting riding there.
No. They did I don't know if they still do it. There was one around the same time as Sturgis done here in Arizona, and ironically, it's called Too Broke for Sturgis.
Yeah, up there, up north. Yeah.
Yeah, and that actually might be something to look into because that's a bunch of people that either were too old or don't have enough money to go blow it all on a Sturgis trip. But, it could work. I don't know.
I think it's centered around Cottonwood, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where, but
Camp Purdy or Cottonwood up there. But I've been to 2 of those in the past. Good size event.
Yeah.
Good size showing.
One of the things we found too, and you guys might be like this as well, a lot of our recipients don't like really, really large crowds. They get a little uneasy. Even Bobby's wife, Jamie, mentioned to me that when they got to Arizona, that actually when they're in we went to Cave Creek, I have a cousin that lives in Arizona. Bobby and Jamie and I all stayed at my cousin's house. But Bobby didn't want to rely on somebody else for a ride somewhere. He had to have his own vehicle so he could get away if he had to. So a lot of the veterans we deal with that way, they won't let you see their PTSD, but they have that and some anxiety around crowds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very sad, but yeah. True.
Plus, I'm just making an excuse so I don't have to go to a big crowd.
Yeah, and that's the same first responders too. That's kind of the big reason I moved out of the big metro area of Phoenix and up here,
Yeah, you guys.
because you get a little tired of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're always looking over your shoulder.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say and that's one big reason for us kind of pushing to the smaller events, kind of focused around us.
Yeah.
Quaint and special.
Yeah. But, and then reaching out to some of the big organizations for donations and stuff would be good, because I know, and that's the other thing. We're just about out of time here. So if you want to hang out real quick, we'll go over some stuff off air. But
Okay.
it was great having you on. You do a great program.
Yep.
And
Very honorable. Thank you.
oh, yeah, absolutely. And anytime you want to come back on here to talk about it, to talk about different things, and if you're coming back to Arizona,
We'll do a live broadcast maybe next Bike Week, 27th.
That'd be
yeah,
great.
maybe we can go down there and do that.
Yeah.
Of course, then I'd have that issue staying in a hotel with a shitload of people.
Well, if you stay in the hotel we use for our host hotel, you'll have a good time.
Oh, yeah.
All righty. Well, hey, folks, this is a great organization. I'm not sure how to do it, but I'm going to try to get their website link on our website. But on the social media, Real American Blue on Facebook, on X, and on Getter, and on Truth Social, it's there. So all you got to do is click on it. And if you have a bike that's just sitting around, I'm sure these guys would take it.
Yep. Terry will take it.
And if you have a volunteer, or you feel the need to actually do something for veterans, this is a damn good program to do it with. So anyway, that's it, folks. And we don't have anybody listed for next week,
That was my
but I'm
question.
sure that could change in a couple hours.
Awesome.
Take care, guys. Thanks for coming on, Terry. Hang out for a little bit.
Terry,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for having me on.